So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Osundeko. I work at Fidelity Bank as Group Head Digital Marketing. And today I will be moderating a panel tagged Technology for Customer Understanding, Engagement and Action in 2021. We have, very experienced and knowledgeable panelists. And in no particular order, I'm just going to introduce them. We have with us today Buki Osunkeye. Buki is the head of retail products marketing at Sterling Bank. Let's make her feel very welcome. Welcome, Buki. We also have with us Damilola Abodurin. Basamta is head of iProspect Nigeria. And yes, Damilola, welcome. Good to have you here. You seem to have grown a goatee in the lockdown, so yes. Hope you're not going to America anytime soon. Good to have you here.
Fine.
And we also have Lanre. Hi. We also have here Lanre Basamta. Lanre is Group Head in Mobile Financial Services at Interswitch Group. And definitely not the list. We have Dayo, Elegbe, who is CEO for Media. I'm sure a lot of you know. So welcome to the session. So we'll just go straight into the questions that we have today. I'll just invite you, please, if you're not speaking, please use your microphone. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'll just advise the audience, if you have any questions, put it in the Q&A box. And, when I go through my initial questions, we'll pick up your questions. So, technology has been changing marketing for a long time, and we all know that. And what we find is that in this period that we're in now, the speed is, it's faster than ever. So I have this thing I tell my guys at work: let's get it done, not perfect. When we get it done, we can go and perfect it. And there's that speed to market. So a lot of businesses, organizations, professions have adopted technology. So my first question, with that background is, to the panelists is, how is technology really changing the face of marketing? And I will start with Dayo.
Hi, guys. It's a great question.
You need to unmute yourself, Dayo. You're muted.
Can you hear me now? I think I am unmuted. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I think there may be a slight lag. Yeah.
Okay.
To be honest with you, technology has always influenced marketing. I think it's the advent of digital technology that we're really talking about. If you look back historically, the invention of the printing press, television, radio, these are technologies that influence the way brands connected with consumers in quite fundamental ways. The difference with digital is that it influences how consumers make purchasing decisions in such an effective way and at such a scale that it's really like nothing we've ever seen before, right? So this isn't it's not just about a logistical change in the sense that, okay, I can now deliver my messaging in a more cost-effective way, like the printing press did, or television, brought in sight and sound. We're actually saying, through the power of digital technology, we can have an innate understanding of consumers at a much deeper level than at any time in history. And therefore, it gives us the capabilities and the powers to be able to influence their decision-making in quite fundamental ways, right? So that's how, technology and marketing are working. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
All right, great. No, great point regarding, the ability for us. The thing is, consumers are also more empowered now and they're more informed now. So it's quite interesting you brought the angle of innate understanding because, they want to be reached in a very personalized way. And so I like the point that you made. I don't know if anyone else wants to kind of add to the point Dayo has made. Perhaps Lanre was smiling, so go with Lanre.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
All right. I think Dayo made some very useful points. I think the premise of his response was that technology had always influenced marketing, and I'm inclined to agree. I think your question, very much like Dayo said also, is pointing towards digital technology. And I think, I work, I'm a marketing person, and I've been in technology now for a few years. And I think the best way to really express what technology is doing today is that it's giving us insights that we never used to have. Digital technology is providing us access to the customer that we never used to have. Unlike many segments that suffered greatly, particularly in 2020 because of COVID and the attendant lockdown, the additional embrace of digital technologies is helping us to see exactly and more clearly what consumers are doing, how they are reacting, who our targeted audiences are, and what influences or impugns their interest. So today, unlike in the past, we have access, we have insights that we never used to have, and that is helping smarter brands to make smarter decisions than ever before. So I'll say insight and data is maybe the biggest impact, and access is maybe the biggest impact today than we used to have.
All right, great. So just to recap what you've all said, number one, better understanding of customers, obviously access being rich, and being able to influence the decision more as a result. Our final panel member has just joined. His name is Dayo Adefila. Hi, Dayo. So we have two Dayos.
Hi,
I'm not sure how
yeah,
to refer
Dayo,
to.
my man.
So I will do Dayo A and Dayo E.
It's been a long time.
Great.
No, okay. Dayo E and Dayo A. Maybe.
So at some point, the two Dayos were direct competitors running, digital marketing agencies. So good to have them on board. All right. So the second question, I will just
correction. No longer. He's now on the other side.
That's what I said used to. I said used to. I know.
Okay.
Used to. He left the mission. Right. Okay. So the second question I was going to ask is, obviously businesses are all about engaging customer better, driving a lot of loyalty. What will you consider the most important elements to kind of influencing better customer engagement and, more customer loyalty? I'll start with Buki on that question.
Thanks, Ose. Can everyone hear me clearly? Just checking.
Very clear.
Fantastic. Sorry, I think my network seems to have been going shoddy now. The most important element to ad tech and technology for the future is, for me, definitely one, knowing what platforms your customers want to connect with you on. And by that, what I mean is, I was sharing with some people recently, we're talking about, marketing in Nigeria, and they were so shocked that we actually set up systems in Nigeria to customer service people on social media. And for us in Nigeria, it's a normal thing that, nobody has the time to be calling you and, sending an email that, I'm having an issue with your product. They want to go straight to your, social media and start those conversations and expect you to do the rest of the work. So, that's the first things first. When you are reaching out or converting a new customer, you have to be able to understand each of the segments, to understand, however you segment them, whether regionally or, through their lifestyle or whatever, put into buckets how each of your customers wants to be addressed. Some people are email types, some are social media types, some are SMS types. And it's very, very important that we know that for each of our segments. But at the same time, let's talk engagement. there's something that happens, with market. They are so fixated on going to market with our product, converting the customer, being quick to bring them in, but then we don't follow through with through the funnel approach. So after these customers, have converted, hey, you've hit your mark, you wanted to do, 10,000 customers, 100,000 customers. Now, how do you engage? Because I tell you, the moment you are done with your, acquisition strategy for this season, trust me, as you went to market, your competition was building something to get right on your tail to acquire the same customer that you spent millions of dollars to get just yesterday. So what is the through the funnel strategy that we have to continue to engage that customer at different points in their lifestyle, at different points in their journey, to keep them locked in? That's, I know all the technology that's now available that we're all implementing in our various workplaces, and thanks to our erstwhile colleagues here in this session, our digital partners that have brought such technology to Nigeria. But the truth of the matter is there's so much more that we can do. So much more that we can do after you've brought the customer in. How are we engaging? And when I say engage, every single platform that customer wants to be addressed at, not just email, not just social media, so many other places. I hope that sort of sets the tone, or answers what you're looking for.
Definitely. Okay, definitely sets the tone. I think you also kind of pick on digital technology, in terms of understanding your customers. But I want a practical example. So obviously a lot of banks, yes, they have a lot of data, they have customers, but one thing that you see that most of them are lacking, because a lot of them are trying to.
Can anyone hear me?
Transformation. Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's a little bit
Great.
delayed.
So I'll just start again. I said, can you give us a practical example of what you're either doing in your current job, to drive this loyalty, or what can be done, to drive this kind of customer loyalty? It might be tools you're implementing. It might be a framework that was created around this. So if you can help, that would be great.
Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to give away all our business secrets and all the back-end technology right here at this session.
This is the problem in Nigeria. The currency of our time is collaboration.
I love my job, and I'd like to keep it. Okay. So here's the thing. Let me share some particular insights that I know from certain, products and services. So first of all, when you're offering a service, that there's many more different ways that you can gather data, unlike when you're selling products. When you're selling a product, the customer has bought from off the shelf, and chances are, because you were selling through a middleman, you don't have a way to gather their data and reach out to them later on. But it helps when you've gone to market, right? And you already know that you want to be talking to these people later on. So I know of a particular tool, right, that at the point where you are selling the service,
I think we might have lost Buki. Okay. I think we might have lost Buki. So whilst we wait for Buki just to come back, okay, we can hear you.
Okay. There we go. So at the points where we're selling the service to you, right, the type of data that we're gathering from you, your location, right, your lifestyle, and your preferred platforms are put into a bucket, right, whereby going on from there, a customer journey is created for how do we talk to this customer based in their language, on their platform, in their own means from now on. So what is very key, right, from the products that I've worked on, and I'm not saying a specific one I currently work, service that I currently work with, right, but what is very key is knowing in the future, say if I sell Ose a service, I need to already know that, in the future, Ose will need to talk to me how many times a year, or in what way, or what kind of after sales service will she require from me, so that I know what data I'm collecting from Ose at the very beginning when we're starting our relationship. So it varies from product to product, But I've seen a situation where a particular, and I mean, that's why Nigeria has really changed now. We have developers in the back end who are building tools on the regular. So once a product owner can say that this is how I'd like to talk to Ose in the future, developers are, and they build into the service.
Okay. So I think we've lost Buki again, but I'm kind of just going to reiterate. Sorry, Buki, we lost you again, but I'll just reiterate some of the points that you made. So the question was around important elements that drive customer engagement and loyalty. Buki also made the point of being able to gather data. So we find that in Nigeria, banks, telcos, they have a lot of data. But I think cleaning up the data is usually the issue. Ensuring that you have, like you talked about when you're running a campaign, what kind of data do you want to collect, just to ensure you have a well-rounded picture of your consumers. Obviously, another one will be the digital technologies, be it a DMVE, a CDP, to bring all your data together and give you meaningful insights. And the third one I will add is also creativity. So I was speaking to a colleague the other time, and I was like, I'm looking around at brands, and I'm not really seeing anyone doing anything that's wow, and that's the absolute truth. I think yes, when you have the data and technology, you need to still add creativity for that kind of engagement and loyalty. So for me, it will be those three elements I will add. So thank you so much, Buki, for that question. So I'll go to Damilola. Damilola, the question I want to answer is around ad tech and mark tech. So would you say they are two of the same coins, or they're completely separate? How would you define ad tech and mark tech?
Thanks, Osa. I think it's probably even easy to mix and match ad tech and mark tech. I think the reality is that MarTech is more focused on first-party data, and a lot of that first-party data deals with what the business, or that relationship the business has with customers that come and go. AdTech, on the other hand, focuses more on third-party data, and it's basically trying to ensure that communication is disseminated or distributed to as many eyeballs as possible to get them to carry out a specific action or elicit some form of reaction. Where at the end of the day, because there's technology backing everything, you're able to know what is happening, and then there's data coming through, and then you're able to basically make sense of what that data is, and maybe improve your business processes and product development cycle. So they are not the same. They are closely related. That's basically what I would define both of them as.
All right, great. So on a practical note, if just give us some examples of some MarTech that you use, how you use them, and how you also some obviously ad tech partners you have, and how you complement those, so that people have practical understanding of those.
Okay, so we'll put it this way. So MarTech is a combination of tools, same with AdTech. So it's not necessarily one specific tool, as it were. So you basically have it as a stack in that regard. And so your MarTech essentially will consist of tools that help you to host or hold data. Your CDP platforms would be an example, and there are a couple of examples on there. The guys who have been exhibiting have showcased their services as CDP platforms. The guys at Terraform, and even the guys at Eskimo too. And then you have scenarios where the technologies, ancillary technologies that help make sense of all of these data repositories. So you have signal platforms, platforms that generate a lot of data for you. Data can be coming from social, coming from devices, coming from interaction with either the marketing communication or even the brand, whether digitally or offline. So there are lots of tools out there. Some of them that we have used would be the likes of Platform, which basically helps us to aggregate a lot of all of these signals, make sense, make some informed decisions. By the end of the day, the tools that are being used or the tools that are become something that you might want to have a long-term plan for. Yeah. Also back to you, so I'm done.
I'm not sure if it's me, but I think you're going in and out, Damilola. I'm not sure if it's my network or yours. Can you hear Damilola very well, or me? I'm not really sure. There's a break somewhere. Can you hear me?
It's 50-50. Some people say yes, some people say no.
Okay. Sorry about the connection issue.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Do you need me to repeat what I said?
All right, so I'll just move on to the next question. Thank you so much, Dami, for that, or Damilola for that. I don't know if you like to be called Dami, for that. But I see that Dayo is back. Dayo A is back. So I'll ask him a question. Dayo, one of the highest problems that we've seen in the marketing profession is really kind of the integration of tools. Have you had any issues integrating your MarTech and your AdTech? And how were you able to overcome this?
Okay, very, very clear and timely question. That really is the beginning, stage for anyone who wants to actually do proper data-driven marketing, right? How do you bring the various types of tools together? Do you have the kind of stacks you're working with, right? Because when people talk about data-driven marketing, they're like 200 million different tools that you find, right? So what we've done is you look for tools that aggregate some of them into groups, groupings, right? And so sometimes you have tools like maybe a social bakers, right? That will help you aggregate everything for social and also for analytics, those kind of things, which, by the way, that falls under the MarTech classification, right? Those tools that help you deal directly one-on-one with the end users. But it gets exciting, when you're trying to build a proper customer persona, digital persona, to really say these are the types of people that are using my brand, right? How do I really know more about those people? So aggregating, removing silos. I think maybe that's another way I can phrase it, which is, so how do you break that data silo that you normally have in an organization? Okay, so I give an example, whether it's a telco, it's a bank, those are even very data-rich environments, right? But if you look at an FMCG, right, FMCGs typically have their own, you sell through distributors, wholesalers, and then you're engaging with end user consumers. So you have to deliberately know how you use various tools. CDPs help, for instance, customer data platforms that can bring, the combination of MarTech for you and also AdTech, capability in there. So you then start to have a better view, of the people you're calling your audiences, right? So I think it's important. We are doing that at the moment. Moving in that journey of working with the proper CDP, blending more of this kind of data, and then utilizing it to create the right digital personas, which will help us achieve one key objective. How do you funnel, do your consumer journey properly, right? Because if you don't have the right personas that you get from all of that backend, you could just be creating, consumer journey interventions that are, going in the wrong, ineffective direction. So it's definitely critical that you learn to deliberately start that journey of creating your data and removing silos so you can be more effective in doing your data-driven marketing. I hope you guys caught some of it because I'm getting feedback as well.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Dayo. Thank you. Yeah, your network was good. Your network was good. Thank you. I think you really made a good point about working in silos. Not, so we find out every organization. I think the point here is just emphasizing collaboration. Whether it's in data, whether it's in your strategy, we really need to collaborate a lot more. So thank you so much for that. That was a good point. So I would ask Dayo E the next question. And it's basically, when you think about 2021, what outlook do you have for ad tech and market tech, or even just marketing and media in general?
Yeah, 2021, man. Gosh, I think loads of people are looking forward to that. 2020 was rough. I think when you look at ad tech, obviously the big thing that looms is the decision by Google to stop supporting a lot of third-party cookies, right? I think it's in the next couple of years, maybe not straight away, but certainly if you're in the ad tech business, and you're heavily reliant on that type of technology, then you need to be evolving quickly, or else you're going to lose your dinner. So you're going to see a lot of ad technology companies really go back to what I call basics, right? So before we all got addicted to cookies, we used to do contextual marketing. We used to just, the way we targeted was based on context, right? And technology is still, in fact, technology is even more advanced now when it comes to understanding the context that consumers are consuming media in, right? With AI and machine learning and all sorts of things, you found that technology hasn't stood still. It's actually got better and better. So, you'll go back to the time when I first started in digital, when context was everything, right? So you'll see a lot of ad technology sort of start to embrace that. Is what I see. On the MarTech side, Dayo was very eloquent when he said, "Look, it's all about breaking down silos and aggregating data." And I think also you mentioned it as well. I'll say, look, if we're looking at truly being data driven, it's actually a bigger conversation around digital transformation, right? It's about how we look at the various aspects of digital transformation, from where we get our data, how we bring it together, and how we, use the insights that come out of that to drive our actions, right? So you're going to see on the MarTech side, I predict, not just a aggregation of customer data, right, and a better understanding of customer data, but actually you're going to start seeing the best solution providers will start to layer on top of that enterprise data. Does that make sense? So that we now have a more holistic view of the consumer beyond just now I have a single view of my consumer. It's now saying, okay, you have a single view of your consumer. That's great. I mean, loads of companies are not even there yet, right? But the companies that are there, you're going to start to layer on top of that more sort of enterprise data that gives them a better understanding how they can really drive profitability based on that information that they now have about their consumers. So they're going to go beyond just this idea of the customer journey and actually start thinking about customer decision journey, which is fundamentally different to where we are now and the conversations we're having, right? It's the customer decision journey is something that's a lot more not as well known, by most advertisers. Although the big tech companies, the Googles and the Facebooks are like, that's what they make their bread and butter on. So, companies are going to start to realize, you know what, it's not just about, and we can't depend on the big tech companies to solve this problem, because they've built customer decision journeys around optimizing likes and clicks, right? Because that's their bread and butter, right? You need to be building customer decision journeys around your specific product, because your specific product is what puts money in your pocket. It's not pushing likes, and and we as advertisers or we as agencies, we're guilty because we ourselves have drank from the same Kool-Aid for many years, where we've pushed the metrics that make sense for these big technology companies, instead of saying to our clients, no, you should actually have a better understanding of your customer decision journeys, and actually develop to a certain degree customer algorithms that are very specific to your product and your industry. Because Google and Facebook aren't going to do that for you, right? They're going to do it for their business, and that's why they're making billions of dollars, right? So you're going to see MarTech hopefully will start to go that direction. Is my prediction. Well, at least that's what I humbly think.
Super, great. I mean, I think you make a good point about cookies. A company had come to present to me yesterday some personalization that could happen on my website. And I told them, cookies is going to be faded out next year. What are you going to do? They couldn't even answer. It was an Indian organization, which is quite surprising. But I think it makes, that's a good point, and people should definitely look into that. I like your point also about customer decisioning or decision journey, being a bit more detailed than just having a single view. Okay, so I have a single view of Ose. How am I going to influence her? I think that's really great. And then you make a good point about developing an algorithm that is specific to your business or products or service that you're pushing out. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask both Dami or Dami. I just hope I'm not offending you by calling you Dami. So I'm going to ask both Damilola, and I'm going to get some other views from, the client side. So, Dami, obviously, you need to always make a business case in terms of for investment to be made, whether it's ad tech or mark tech, to the business. How are you able to establish a case, for this, knowing how agencies are, being pulled by clients, for discounts, especially FMCGs. I find we do this a lot. And then how do you, in making your case, kind of show value based on some kind of measurement criteria? I'm not sure if that question, did you get the question right? Dami?
I'm not entirely sure I have the question right, but
okay.
Let me interpret it.
Okay. Let me go over it again. How do you establish a case for investment in ad tech and market tech from an agency side? And what are the measurement criteria that you put forth in order to understand the value to the business and obviously to your clients?
Okay. I think it's a great question. And I'll take it in two ways. I think the first thing is there is a reality that is coming, and virtually everybody needs to be prepared for it. And the first thing is the demise of the third party or support for third party cookies, just like Dayo had highlighted. There are lots of businesses that do not already realize the implications for that. It basically means your digital marketing will go haywire. Whatever targeting you thought you had will no longer be accessible to you. That's the first thing. The other thing is that there's a lot more stringent enforcement of data policies. So the more businesses are gathering or aggregating data across different touch points, the more they are likely to come under scrutiny from policy and regulatory bodies. So data policies and respect for those data policies become pretty much important, especially going into 2021. If COVID has taught us anything, it has basically forced us to realize that if you do not prepare or plan for disaster, you basically be swallowed up by it, And in this instance, we know that third-party or support for third-party cookies is going to happen. It is critical for any business that wants to remain relevant, even in the marketing space or even in business in general, needs to make that investment in ad tech and martech. for their survival. And I think the third thing is when you look at audiences and their expectations that have been built around what a business can do for me or what a service or product can do for me, it is important to be able to read the room, understand who you are speaking with or which customer is engaging with your business, and then offer them the relevant product or service that will delight them. If you don't have this data or if you're unable to interpret the deluge of data that is coming through, you basically become someone force-fitting solutions to people who do not need it. And at the end of the day, you will have disgruntled or unhappy customers, which will have a negative impact on your business, not in the long run, in the immediate. And so if you consider this point, you can basically expand further, then begin to see why investment in a MarTech or AdTech solution or both becomes critical for your business survival going into 2021. And I'll let the other guys make some other contributions to this.
All right, great. So I'm just looking at it from a financial perspective now. So thank you for the business case points. How would you charge as an agency? Would you charge the clients to have that, those solutions, or you would invest in it yourself and subcharge to your different clients? I just want to know the model. So we might have some agency people here who might wonder, how to balance that cost.
Great question. MarTech and AdTech are not cheap. And I think we need to establish that it is not a cheap endeavor. We actually need to be sure and make that deliberate effort to go into it. Not all agencies, for that matter, will be able to afford to have an AdTech or MarTech solution internally. Some might be able to, and some to take some time. The reality is that because of the data that these services or platforms are holding, there is a policy element to also consider. So it is actually brands or businesses' interest to have the solutions sitting in their own digital domain, right? Where this is not available or where this is not an option, then agencies can then explore a subscription model where that service or solution sits with them. Now, the agency now needs to make that business case within the system to understand what the cost benefits would be to acquire and then resell on a subscription basis. There are services or solutions that offer these subscription services as well. The agencies may explore maybe a partnership with those services, basically to bring this to the local market. However, it's actually better to have this internally, pay for it and build it by yourself. Whether it's an option, then explore a subscription model. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Dami. Just from the agency perspective, Dayo, do you have an opinion on that before we go to the client side?
Yeah, I do actually. Funny. For me, I think the client should pay for it, and I'll explain why. Back in the day, we used to, especially when delivering sort of new concepts to clients, right? So way back in the day, when we were selling, social media monitoring and for the very first time, right? It was understandable for the agency to take on those costs, right? Because most of the time, the clients didn't even understand why they needed these tools or what these tools were, or which were the best tools. So a lot was reliant on the agency to make that decision on their behalf. So obviously, if the agency is making the decision on their behalf, then they would buy the tools and then pass on to the cost to the client. The other thing from a profitability perspective was that because these tools were new to the market, there was an opportunity for arbitrage for these agencies, right? So you had new solution providers coming into the market. They were testing the market for the first time. So the agency could negotiate and, grandfather some great rates into these bits of software. So that meant a better margin for the agency, right? When we resold them to the client. That's no longer there, right? That's no longer there. So you're now in a situation where these tools have become a lot more mature. Companies know about it. In many instances, these tools are being marketed directly to the brand. So a lot of these, solution providers are actually marketing to your clients and are presenting to your clients and negotiating with their procurement department. So there is no room for you as an agency owner to make any decent margin from reselling somebody else's technology, right? So just to save everybody headache, save the client's headache, save you as an agency headache, right? From a profitability perspective, from the most of the tools out there, the client really should just make the investment in the license because it also shows transparency, right? So there's no point in me as an agency trying to maneuver and do all sorts of things when I know that the market is progressed. It's become a lot more mature and the pricing is a lot more transparent. Unless you're being deliberately dishonest. Do you see what I mean? So that's my.
Okay. So that's an interesting angle, and I would use a very simple tool, just because it was mentioned earlier, as simple as social bakers. So if I invest in social bakers, and you brought up the point of transparency, right? Who is going to operate it? Would it be the agency, knowing that there's still people on the client side who do not even have an idea? So I'll invest in it, and the agency will be using it for their various clients. That's one point. Or should it sit with me and then I use it myself? And I'll give you an example. I agree with you that to a large extent that the investment should be made by the clients. Social bakers, we use it, and what we do is we paid for it. We have an enterprise license. And we look at the data, analyze it ourselves, and we do it ourselves. When we left it with an agency that we worked with, they couldn't get that level of investment from a cost perspective, and they didn't bring the angle of, oh, you guys should pay for it. We didn't have the kind of access that we wanted. So who do you think should operate it? Because if I'm going to pay so much money for something, I don't want it to be shared in terms of value with another client, I would say. So how do you balance that?
No, you're absolutely spot on. And I don't think, in the instance where you as a client are paying the license for a tool, the agency should not use it with other clients. I mean, that's wrong. I mean, that's pure and simple. I think, just because you're not operating it doesn't mean you can't pay for it on behalf of the agency. Oh no, definitely you can. You can pay for it, and your agency operates it. There's no problem with that whatsoever. That's very transparent. Your agency will charge you a management fee for operating it, and it's very clear what that fee is. It should be very separate from the cost of the license. Now, obviously, it depends on the level of relationship you have with your agency. If you believe that your agency is going to use a tool that you pay for another third party, well, that's the dumbest thing the agency can ever do. Because all it takes is an annual audit for you to discover what they're doing, and they're going to lose the business, right? So I don't think any agency worth their salt would do that once you've made it very clear that.
Right. And
then the other thing I think you're asking is, what if my agency isn't? Maybe you're not asking that question. But maybe you're saying maybe my agency isn't using it as well as I thought, or as I believe they could. Then that's a quick case and just find the right agency. I think that would be the easy response.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. So I'll go to Lanre. Lanre, what's your opinion on all of this?
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the issue on its head a bit. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk about data being valuable. So I'm going to start from the premise that data is not as valuable as we think. As a matter of fact, data can be a burden, can be very useless. In fact, more likely than not, I've seen data become a needless burden for many organizations. I know an organization currently that has generated maybe some of the most voluminous data set about Nigeria possible. They have a data set on 90 million Nigerians today. I know, and it's just data. So let's start from that premise. Data can be useful, but data by itself is not valuable. That's number one. So what then is valuable? I would say insight from data is more valuable than data by itself, right? But insight itself is also not valuable. What you will say is more valuable is actionable intelligence that you get from insight. So you have data on your customers, but you're able to generate insights about their trends, their buying decision. That is not enough until you get enough actionable intelligence. So now we know that they buy in the evening on Sundays. What will that do, or what should that do? Okay, that's the third. The fourth thing that I think is now even more valuable than actionable intelligence is value that you are able to create from those intelligence that you get. Okay, now I've said those things because of one reason, and I'm trying to follow up the conversation from Dayo about first who should pay. I'll give some example, a real life example. If you recall, I said earlier that I'm a marketing person in technology. In the last year or so, I'm actually back in business. So I have a P&L that I am accountable and responsible for. And I see things a bit differently than when I was just in marketing. When, my job was to talk about insights, data, talk about the customer. Today now, I'm responsible for a multi-billion-dollar business. And I need to make decisions every day. And I need to justify the decisions that I make in terms of P and L. I'll give a real life example. I'm in the mobile digital financial services business today. Mm-hmm. And the leading martech in the industry, okay, about two of them, some of the best ones in the industry. They cost a meager 100K USD, which today is about 50 million, right? And I always wondered, who is going to buy just one solution for 50 million when the real value was just a value added service? I'd always thought about that, okay? What has happened today is that the OEMs, the guys who built those solutions, they not only understand the value, they're currently in this market selling directly to the banks and other guys. People are buying it, and just to support Dayo's position, the customer or the client is buying. Not the consumer. The client first, they're buying. So I started researching, what would make this guy buy a solution for 50 million, okay, which is about 50 million. A couple of guys bought it in the last 3 or 4 months. I was asking, what will make them buy? What's the business justification? Because now I'm also in business. I'm asking myself, who would I pay 50 million? It occurred to me that really the business case or the business justification for martech is that he has to undeniably offer value. Getting data, understanding customer trend, and all of those fancy things, they're good, but you've got to deliver undeniable value in terms of P and L. And if you are able to demonstrate that, then it's clear that people are going to pay. So today, one of the business cases is that you can clearly reduce costs in other ways. By acquiring this martech solution, you can clearly reduce cost in other ways, and so immediately that's a good justification. Okay, it is clear that by acquiring this solution, you can actually make earnings in other lines of business. So yeah, that's a good justification. In fact, I stumbled into an insight in the last 2 weeks that by paying 50 million for this solution, you can actually make maybe 120 million in a given year. So the justifications are easier to make now because you have to show demonstrable value. I tell you, the difference between what I used to do as a marketing person to what I do today as a business person is that I need to account for Naira and Kobo. I have a budget that I need to deliver every year. But not only do I need to deliver it, I need to show demonstrable value. And that value needs to speak ultimately to Naira and Kobo. Now, when that is clear, then it's much easier for you to make a convincing pitch. And even if it's 50 million, 100 million, people are more readily willing to acquire solutions that show value. Yeah, that's my view. Thanks.
Sorry, can I just chime in?
Absolutely.
I was clapping for you.
So absolutely, I think I mean, you brought a client side perspective, to it. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah, I mean, I like the point of, cost demonstrable value. I mean, I think that's a client side perspective to bring to it. You see the whole business. It's not even income from other businesses. It's just the business. There's no other business. Everyone, whether you're in retail, whether you're in banking, you will just work for the business, and it's also that. So I think you make a very good point in terms of from a client perspective. I'm not sure if Dayo or Buki want to add any other perspective to this, or if we can just move on from that question. I was talking about Dayo A, but Dayo E can talk about it. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I guess the only point I wanted to sort of add, it was I couldn't. Larry was absolutely spot on. I mean, in terms of his, and the only contention I have with what he said is marketing is, when you describe marketing and business as being different. I have never seen the distinction, right? And it's very interesting because when people say to me, "Oh, but you're a marketing guy now," I'm like, no, I was first a businessman. I was from a kid. I'm a businessman. It's not a marketing guy. There's nothing that infuriates me more than when I see ideas that don't deliver to the bottom line. It just infuriates me. I'm always like, no, and I understand that not all marketing solutions or all marketing interventions, right, people can very clearly see the bottom line, right? Like there's a lot of marketing interventions that, when people talk about building up awareness and, getting your brand into the consideration set, these are very, very important points that they're making, because you can't just focus solely on conversion. You can't just focus solely on, let's just get our strategies so that, as soon as people see our product, they're going to buy it. But no, because human beings, again, going back to, customer decision processes or customer decision journeys, right? People just don't think that way, right? So there's going to be a lot of activity that marketing does that you may not see the fruit of it right now, but it's actually contributing to it, right? So not everything is directly attributable, right? However, the point I was going to try that you made that I thought was so spot on that I wanted to sort of buttress as well, with adding a little bit to that, is that I would even go further to say that actionable insight in itself is useless, right? Now, and let me explain what I mean by that, because that might sound a little bit controversial, right? Is that just because I know something is right doesn't mean that I'm going to do it, or doesn't mean that the business has the will to do it. Now, I sat in a conversation like a decade ago, and I will say, well, I might give it away a little bit, but I actually sat in a conversation with a client about 10 years ago, and I said to them, you want me to spend this amount of money on Facebook, right? And I said, personally, I don't think you should spend this amount of money on Facebook. I think it's unjustifiable. I think, and at that time, their internal database was bigger than the entire population of Nigeria on Facebook. I said, if you give me that budget, right, I will deliver more business value for you in your internal database than you can ever get from this Facebook platform. And I remember literally thinking I was mad, because I was going, look, I'm not the owner of your business, but I'm acting like I'm the owner of your business. So I'm like, don't spend this money. So just because, and the person is very rational, he's very intelligent, he's one of the most intelligent people I know, but because of the pressure coming from your guys at the top or wherever, or the global policy, they were making irrational decisions, right? So even actionable insight, and I don't want you to feel like all marketers in Nigeria are crazy and we don't know what we're doing. No, we do know what we're doing, but sometimes, even if you give people that data and you give them that insight and you say, this is what you ought to do, they internally can't do that. So I don't want to give too much away, but there is a solution to that problem. right? And it's really about thinking about, the next stage, the next thing, right? So yeah. So actually, I'll say it, right?
Yeah.
It's about looking at your job as marketer as just an agent for change, but actually being a conduit of change. There's certain things you can build into your marketing process that ensures that this insight is actionable, as opposed to just being a communicator of insight. Sorry.
So I see both points, and I'll just kind of stress on it. So you've always been an owner of a business. You've always started a business, so it's very easy for you to have always seen the need to always have a business value in all you do. And you probably also always had high-level conversations, to be able to understand that. But remember, people who had grown, you came into marketing, they taught you 4Ps, you went and you now ended up focusing more on communications. There, you're just thinking about creativity. We have how many downloads, and you were literally stopping at it. And I wouldn't lie, until I got into the executive management team and media perspective, it was all about that. But when you have to go in front of a board and justify, what's going on in your business, why is the revenue, you're not meeting targets, or you're meeting targets, and how you're going to innovate, then you begin to see the business value. Also, from the agency perspective, apart from people who are so high level, remember when you go and meet your client, they're not sharing enough data, and you might not even know the right answers to ask. So it's a brief. My competitor is this. I want creative strategy for social media. So I think I see both points. But one is coming from a career progression perspective, and one is coming from someone who has always been a businessman. Show me the money. I need to pay people at the end of the month. I need to have this client on board for 10 more years. So I need to continuously deliver, to their bottom line. So I think both have made very great points. So thank you very much. So I think we have a question from the audience, which I will ask, and then if we have any more, I think we probably have just 5 more minutes to end this session. So it says, what would you say is the future of citizen-based advertising? By this, I mean people who don't want to go to agencies, e.g. celebrities, SME, that make use of YouTube, TikTok. Must everybody use an agency? That's a very interesting question. I asked it in the last seminar that I had OT, but yes. Let me ask the agency person, and then I'll go back to Dayo and Buki. So, Damilola says, they're threatening your business here. Do we really need an agency?
So, I'll put it this way. There are benefits to having an agency. There are also benefits to going the route of what I call them specialists, as it were. So your agency team essentially helps you have a more robust perspective on the brief at hand, and that's one of the key benefits that comes with an agency. Coupled with that, you have economies of scale that you can leverage and things like that. However, when you go through or go with MSMEs or celebrities who are in the field of TikTok, it means there is a specific problem you're trying to tackle. And that's where because they are suited for that purpose, especially suited to really helping you capture an audience, the better leverage you can. So I think it's more of what it is that you want to get out of the kind of results you're looking out for. But both of them have their benefits, and both of them have their demerits. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a really good point. And I'll just give a personal example. I work in a bank. Yes, I don't see myself as a banker. I always emphasize it at every opportunity I have. I am not a banker, However, I remember entering the bank thinking, I might as well just kind of have my own mini agency within the bank. And I'll tell you why. It might be number one, speed. Just saying what you want. If anything goes wrong at 3 a.m., they expect to be able to reach me at 3 a.m. and they expect me to deliver a solution at 3 a.m. No one cares. When I call my agency, it's weekend, I'm sleeping, I have no control of that. So my first few months, I had that frustration to say, it can't work, And so I kind of work with a mixed model now, I kind of work with a mixed model. And I'm also always asking myself, do I want to have that overhead costs, in terms of internally? So that's one thing, knowing that I wouldn't always be there forever. So if I had hired, 30 human beings to come and work as a mini agency internally and I move on, if someone else comes and doesn't see that model, will they let go of people? So there's always that fear, of balancing things. And also, I find that agencies, that they are dedicated team just for you, the attention that my brand needs, it's very hard for just an agency to service it. First and foremost, I go into all the business meetings, I understand everything that is needed. I kind of understand a clear positioning of how I want to position my brand. But the agency works with so many people at the same time, and I might not have that kind of attention I need. However, I'm also very realistic to say that the agency works with a variety of clients, and they're able to bring a new flavor, to things. So the way I work right now, it's like 90%, apart from probably creatives, internal, and then probably the 10 to 20%. But I'm not really sure how sustainable, that is. But I can see what you mean by their merits, and credits of having what model, and it just depends on what really works for you. Knowing that the more attention you put into marketing internally, it might also get you to miss what the business, your core business value is. So it's a very tricky one, but I want to hear Dayo's perspective, and then we'll go to Buki.
Yeah, it might shock you what I'm about to say.
Sorry. Okay, Dayo A. You're saying?
Okay.
It's like Dayo is frozen.
No worry. Dayo and I go way back.
Okay, so
you're back on.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. The internet is again awesome today. All right, so quickly, before the network yanks me off, right? So I think you have a couple of considerations you look at. You look at how well developed the marketing function is in your organization. First of all, before you jump on that playbook and say, I heard Osa say this, because Osa is a superstar where she is, right? You look at how to develop that function as in your organization. You look at the business cases that you've been able to show in terms of return on investment, how valuable and useful marketing has been to the business, demonstrable, right? And then you also look at the makeup of the team that you have, right? What kind of capabilities do you have in that team, right? What do they deliver? What do you need as extra? Okay, so where I work, for instance, yes, we have some people that do some in-house work, but not for digital marketing, right? Of course, I and a couple of people, do some of that, but from heavy lifting point of view, we still find it valuable to work with the agencies, right? But what do we do with these agencies? We're very clear with bringing them with us on the journey as we evolve, right? And we look for agencies that also know that tomorrow is already here, right? Agencies that are already, either working at pace with us or ahead of us, not people that you are the ones introducing MarTech to, introducing AdTech to. Do you understand? Or else, you're going to be in trouble. So you have to look at that balance. I mean, this is an old conversation, both globally and domestically. If you say Nigeria, exactly. It's. I mean, I remember back then. I remember a long time ago when I think Glow was the first, big brand, maybe 10 years, 15 years ago to set up in-house agency team, right? And it was disruptive because Glow at that time was working properly with Inside Communications. Then later they moved a couple of places, right? But they still had their team and they still have their team. So the internal team solved some of those issues of speed and also variety. There's some things that your core digital agency just isn't suited to do, right? And you still find it as part of what you need to do from an interactive marketing point of view. So yes, you should consider having those kind of relationships. Just be very clear. Look, and don't pardon me if I'm like jumping into the closing remarks for this kind of stuff. Look, 2021 is for smart marketers, right? The era of I just know enough to post, and I'm just giving you what Dayo and I used to call traditional, digital back in the days, right? That era has gone a long time ago, right? So people have to really be clear, what do I expect from my agencies? But that will only come if you've even been very clear on what you're trying to do for your brand, right? What you know that is missing, from your current process. So it's going to be a very exciting time. But I mean, you just have to look at those considerations, the structure, what kind of value have you delivered? Why do you think sometimes it could be a lazy index issue, right? It could just be a lazy man index issue, right? Some people just don't want to engage the agency well, right? And they just feel, oh, you know what, it's easier for me to just bring somebody in-house and just, dump everything on them, So it's not a hard and fast rule on how to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not a hard and fast rule. And I feel like even the lazy index can go both ways, both from the client side, both from, the agency side. I also think one point to also consider is the industry that you're in. There are some industries that are just more fast-paced that you can't actually go without having this conversation. Should it be a hybrid? Should it be an exclusive? Or, you just have to think about that, I don't think what can possibly go wrong, in an FMCG that's, at 3 a.m. they're constantly calling you, so you also have to look at your industry. I would say, you make a good point about ways of working. A lot of times, I mean, maybe it might be machinery breaks up, but nothing that you need to, online banking is down. It's different from a machinery has broken down. This one is real time. I'm making a payment at a club. You can't, they're just, or MTN shuts down. I can't call anybody. So I think there are more fast-paced industries than the other. That's, you can't, there are no ways to even cover where there's a wrong, I would say. So the industry you play with is also very key. But you make a point about ways of working, and I think it's both ways. In terms of carrying your agency along, in terms of the agency being willing and having the time to be carried along. I think most of the time when we have maybe issues with the agency, it might be from a commercial perspective. You want me to have a dedicated team for you, but you keep on saying, and when I tell you it's 40 million or it's 80 million per year, you're telling me no, it has to be 15 million. And at the end of the day, I have to survive, have people to pay, so there's also that balance, talking beyond just ways of working, looking at commercials. So I'll hand over to Buki, and then I will just get a couple of people to close for us.
Thanks, Ose. I wanted to touch on something that Lanre said. This whole idea of he's now a businessman. You've welcome to the client side. Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
No, she's not muted. I can hear you clearly.
It's my network. Yeah. Okay, he's coming hard and fast into the client side. Okay. But here's the thing. I think one of the biggest challenges that we're having in, our clients and agency relationships is having to marry the commercials with what the agency is traditionally set up to deliver. So, just as a joke, when I was on the agency side, we'd be very happy to go and report on, hey, look at how much reach I delivered for you, clicks and impressions, and you're like, now, the CTA, all those terminology that you're bringing. But at the end of the day, there's only one terminology, one acronym that we need in the agency, in the client side. That acronym is called CPA, cost per acquisition. How much are you spending to bring me one customer? So you cannot tell me you're going to do a 50 million naira campaign, and at the end of the day, from that campaign, we only grew our customer base from what to my 1,000 people. So I think, like you said, is really knowing what suits your organization, not just your industry. I mean, very clearly, even though we're in the same field, we're in the same industry now, your organization is probably set up very differently from ours, a myriad of products and that sort of thing. So it's unfortunate
all
that we
banks
can't
have the same products, though, just how they package it, I would say.
Man, there are many. I mean, so I mean, all of us we've had a real culture shock when we came from that agency side and we just saw the kind of commercials we need to deliver. So I think the option is on both sides for the client to be able to translate, right? If the client knows that for those commercials you need to deliver, work backwards and say, what are the kind of, I'm just making it up, impressions and reach and conversions you need to do. I'll give you a quick example. Obviously banking apps, you contract your agency and you say, come and do me a marketing campaign, and then they are reporting on downloads. Commercials are asking me, from those downloads, did they open accounts? Do you understand? So let's be real with that. It's you working backwards to knowing, how accounts, how many downloads get to accounts, and then your agency being able to assist you to say how many downloads, can get to account opens. So to address this question that Ayodele Boglo wrote here.
Sorry, Buki, we run out of time. I'm so sorry. I'm getting some pressure and say, you guys have run out of time. But hey, it's been a very great discussion. I think, a lot of good points. Like next time, Uzi, we need 2 hours. 1 hour is just not enough, yeah, it didn't feel like an hour already. But I just want to reiterate some of the points, that we kind of made throughout, this discussion. We first just started off by, saying, how is technology changing the face of marketing? And the point of saying that, hey, technology has always been a part of marketing. It is just the value digital technology is bringing. We talk about the fact that it's giving us the opportunity to know our customers more intimately, better access to them, and better ways to be able to influence their decision in a way that it creates actually mutual value. We also talked about, key elements for driving engagement and loyalty. Yes, of course, digital technologies there, data. Although there was point and say that you can also get overwhelmed by data, so just ensure that you have an data strategy when you're looking, for insights from data, and also creativity. So we're charging both the clients, both the agency. We need to see a bit more creativity, more disruptions in our markets. We looked at the outlook for next year, and everyone is saying, hey, it's all about, yes, even from the agency side, the bottom line. Obviously, speak to the market, obviously ensuring that your unique selling proposition, especially in the light of Google phasing out cookies, how you're still able to give that value to whether your organization or clients, as it may be. And then we talked about, how to make a case for investment in these digital technologies, reducing costs, generating incomes, and of course we ended with a topic that will continue to go on. It's a 20 years decision, conversation, and it's also going to be another 100 years, conversation, which is, what agency modules should you adopt? Should it be solely in-house? Should you have a hybrid approach, or should you have, just an exclusive with an agency? And one thing is clear is all of them work depending on the size of your organization, depending on your objectives, and depending on even the agency that you work with. In this market, there are very, very few. Very, very few. But I'm glad to know that the agencies on the panel are doing great work. So thank you very much. So that's it from us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Admarp, for having us. And thank you to my incredibly knowledgeable panelists. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you all a wonderful weekend and enjoy the rest of the exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Osa. Thank you to all the panelists. It has really been a wonderful, wonderful session. I'll probably say one of the high points of today's entire event. I wish you guys the really, really wonderful rest of the session and the weekend, to everyone on the panel. So moving over to everyone, we have over 500 people that have dialed in so far. It's not easy getting people in one place for the entire day. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone that has stayed with us till this time. You've thrown away all the OMBs and everything to give us your weekend. We appreciate it.